There's nothing I hate more than little pieces of wire and things that stick you in the hand and cut you. You know, there's no reason for that. Everything should be proper. And if that's not going to stick you in the hand and cut your palm open, I don't know what will. Hi, I'm Joe, and welcome to Motor City Boat Werks. Let's get to work.
The summer project in the boat works has been the Skipper 20 sailboat, trying to get this little pocket sailboat finished so that I can put it in the water and kind of test everything out. I'm at the last stages of putting this little sailboat together. This episode is going to be all about probably one of the most important things, the process of inspecting and repairing the rigging and sails on this little sailboat.
So I'm going to be talking about the process that I use to kind of go through all the rigging, the sails, the mast, all of these sort of things for a sailboat that I'm going to be restoring. This is kind of the process that I use and some of the steps that I take. Now, I want to say I'm not a professional rigger. I don't do this for a living. And there's all sorts of salty dogs out there who have done a lot of sailing and racing and this and that, and they'll probably have their own opinions. This is just kind of an amateur's view of how you might go about looking over your sailboat rigging and sails to get an idea of what do you need to do to kind of complete your restoration. So let's get started with some common terminology so we all understand what I'm talking about. We're going to use the Motor City Boat Werks training sloop. It's this little sailboat that I restored a while back. I think it's a great way to kind of point out certain things so we can all understand what it is I'm talking about. In its simplest form, on a boat, there's two forms of rigging, what they call standing rigging and then what they call running rigging. Standing rigging is rigging that doesn't move. It's primarily used to hold up the mast. That would be things like the shrouds here. They're made of stainless steel. They're not necessarily made of rope or any sort of line, right? And usually it includes some shrouds, which is what these are on the side of the boat, a forestay up front, and maybe a backstay on the back of the boat. Sometimes there's two backstays. All sailboats are a little bit different. That's what we call standing rigging. The running rigging are going to be the lines, the ropes that move kind of horizontally along the deck of the boat. They're used to pull things in or let things out, control the sails, stuff like that. This would be some running rigging right here. This is what's called the main sheet. A sheet is basically a line that's used to control one of the sails. You have the main sheet, you have the jib sheet up front here. You can see on the model here, the running rigging is the ropes that are there on the boat. When you're looking over your sailboat restoration project, you're going to want to check all this out. Make sure that the standing rigging and the running rigging, are in good condition. You got to make sure that they're not damaged in any way, that they're sized properly, that they're set up the way that you like them. Setting up a sailboat is very much kind of a personal preference. There are certain things that you might like that someone else wouldn't want on their sailboat. It's all up to your individual tastes and the performance that you're going to try and get out of your sailboat. When I'm looking at inspecting the mast and the rigging for the boat, I'm looking for any of the items that might be damaged. I also want to make sure that the mast is configured properly, that there's no hardware follies going on anywhere on the mast things that need to be replaced or changed over time. I want to make sure that none of the hardware is damaged, it's not cracked or severely rusted or somehow broken in some way. Even though all the hardware is supposed to be, resistant to seawater, right? It should be made of 3/16 stainless steel. Well, oftentimes people substitute other things, aluminum and pot metal and a variety of things that they may use for economic reasons. You want to check all that out.
You will see YouTubers advocating the use of non-standard materials in their sailboat restoration projects. They'll be talking about things like using carbon fiber and using Dyneema rope for their standing rigging and all sorts of other weird ideas. Trust me when I tell you that this is purely for the purpose of getting clicks on YouTube. It's not real. It's nonsense. Don't follow that. Stick with what works, what's convenient for your amateur boat restorer, boat builder, pocketbook, things that your checkbook can afford, and we all understand exactly how it works. Now, you might not believe me, but check out my video on the truth about YouTube sailboat restoration channels. You're going to want to see this. If you were like I was when I just started out, I didn't really know anything about rigging or any of the details of how to do this. You want to pick yourself up a book called The Rigger's Apprentice. It's a big, thick book. It's got all the details on everything you ever need to know about rigging. Kind of use this as the best practices. It'll walk you through everything that you need to be thinking about. Like all my restoration projects, the first step is always an assessment. You got to kind of get in there, clean everything up, and see what it is you have to work with. A couple things you need to keep in mind when you're prepping your mast and getting ready to maybe transport the boat, or you're going to be working on the mast but leaving it outside for an extended period of time. One of the main things you need to think about is that the mast has to be supported all along its length. Now, it doesn't have to be on a 25-foot flat surface, but it does need to be supported, at both ends, in the middle, depending on how long your mast is and how robust it is, maybe even in two places in the middle. You don't want the mast, to bend or sag over time. Even though it's aluminum and even though it seems pretty robust, if you leave an aluminum mast out and you just support it on the two ends, over a period of time, it will actually kind of deflect. It will bend. And you may have a problem getting it to bend back to its original straight shape. Ask me how I know. And also keep in mind that if you have a roller furler or something like that, especially one of these CDI flexible furlers that has a somewhat flexible foil, it's not rigid aluminum, you want to make sure that you support that along the length of the mast. The easiest way to do that is to use some bungees or zip ties and kind of attach it to the mast using the mast itself to support the roller furler. That way things don't get bent and get all screwed up later on when you try and put it back together. Today, working on the mast and kind of inspecting the rigging to see what it is we've got to put back on the Skipper 20 sailboat. And there's a couple of things that I like to do when I get to this stage. One of the things is to really go through the mast and the boom and any other type of rigging or fittings that I have to kind of get an idea of, what is the quality? Is it still functional? Is it still working? See if there's any big picture kind of problems that are going to have to sort through. All sorts of tape and nonsense that will be acquired on the mast over years, and I like to have all this off. Just get rid of it. I don't know what the point is here. I'll be honest, I like to strip the mast down basically to just a bare spar, just the aluminum pole itself. I'll take everything off of the mast, all of the hardware, all of the fittings, pretty much everything that I can get off easily, and I'll set it aside. And this forces me to really get up close and take a look at everything before I decide to put it back on, maybe change out the size or change out some of the hardware. When you've come this far in the restoration, you've got to have your peace of mind that everything is going to be the way you like it. So now I've stripped everything off of the mast. We need to clean it up a little bit. I often use acetone to wipe down the mast, get rid of any adhesive or any kind of sticky residue, tape, what have you, that's been there from all these years. You want to be careful not to rub off the anodized finish on the mast. Be careful about scraping away on your mast trying to get it clean. If the mast is already painted, you may want to touch it up. But if the mast is not painted, don't paint it. Just leave it alone. Clean it up as best you can. Hey, I just want to take a moment to thank all of our supporters and fans, all of our subscribers, and those of you who are supporting us on Patreon. If you're new to the channel and you're just now checking us out, the single most important thing that you can do is hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend about Motor City Boat Werks. This channel would not be possible without your support. Thank you. Proper rigging is all about hardware and materials. Of course, there's going to be a lot of hardware follies going on, right? We talked about that. What's a hardware folly? Hardware folly is where people have used all sorts of fasteners and
some stainless steel, some not stainless steel, coat hangers, pieces of copper wire, all manner of stuff to secure different fittings and pieces of the rigging. Well, we got to go through all that and get rid of all that. You got to get rid of all that and start from scratch. Everything should be stainless steel, proper marine stainless steel, proper cotter pins, proper rings, proper clevis pins, all this sort of stuff. You got to make sure you have the right stuff, and make everything match. Make it easy so down the road when you're rigging this thing after you've trailered it somewhere, it's all going to be easy. You know, there's nothing I hate more than little pieces of wire and things that stick you in the hand and cut you. You know, there's no reason for that. Everything should be proper. Inside here, let me show you this. This is one of the things I like to kind of inspect. So, right, this is your standing rigging here. I like to go through here. This is a great example. Take a look at this. I mean, someone used a piece of copper, probably electrical wire, you know, to secure these turnbuckles. And if that's not going to stick you in the hand and cut your palm open, I don't know what will. I don't know why someone would do something like that. It's just mind-boggling to me, because you can buy a pack of the proper stainless steel rings or what have you, and you can put them on here, and you won't have to worry about this thing jamming you in your palm and tearing your skin open. It's just nuts. So, like, this is the stuff that has to all come off of here. You got to get this out of here. It's already started rusting. Some of it's not even copper. Exhausting. Why would someone do this? So the other thing that we like to do is take a look at this rigging here. All right, so this is surface rust from those pieces of metal. This all looks good. Nothing's cracked here along the edges, right? None of the strands got fish hooks on them. And what I will do is sometimes I'll run my hand along it, but I'll also use like a piece of cotton ball or something like that. And you run it along here just like this. Kind of go all the way down to the end. What are you're trying to feel if there's any cuts or abrasions or something like that in the strand wire here. There will be kinks, like right here is kind of a kink, especially on a trailerable boat. This is probably from the way it was laying. But as long as it's not a sharp bend, you know, it's probably in pretty good shape. Look, here's another example. So you put the pins in, but instead of bending them over proper, they just leave them like this. Well, what do you think is going to happen when something catches on this right here? You're going to tear it off. This has to be, they have to be bent around proper, or they need to have the rings on them. This is nonsense. All right, pieces are like this. Look at this here. Okay, so there are pieces of tape that someone put on here. Why did they do this? I have no idea. It doesn't mean anything to me now.
On these old sailboats, this is often the most common fasteners you'll see on your rigging. Copper wire, bread ties, coat hangers are not appropriate for this job. There's no place for hairpins or anything like that in a rigging job. What you want to use is good quality, solid stainless steel clevis pins, and they're going to be fastened using stainless cotter pins. On rare occasions, you will see hardware that is attached using some sort of a screw. There are some manufacturers that use this type of fastener, but they're almost always a solid screw with threads only on the end, and they're designed for relatively light loads. Any bolt or screw that you use on your mast should be a solid shaft, threads only on the end. They need stainless steel nylocks or some sort of locking washer for the nuts.
All right, let's take a moment to talk about dissimilar metals and what's called galvanic corrosion. When you have two dissimilar metals in contact with each other and they're in the presence of an electrolyte, say like salt water, you'll have to worry about corrosion happening between the two metals. Now, you can read about it online and get all the details. I'm not going to go into that. Let me tell you how I deal with this issue when I'm putting things back on the mast for the boat. First thing you do is keep the mast dry and clean. If there's no salt water present, if none of the hardware is sitting in water and there's no electrical current, well, your chances of galvanic corrosion are going to be drastically reduced. The other thing that you can do is you can apply some special compounds to the threads or where the metals come in contact with each other to try and reduce their contact. Sometimes I'll use a little bit of marine sealant. I might even use something like Loctite or Duralac, some compound like this, to ensure that the metals aren't really in contact with each other. This is really an issue kind of near the mast step area. If you have hardware that's low down on the deck and the mast step might be sitting in a pool of water or something. If you keep on top of it, if you do your regular maintenance, if you inspect your rigging regularly, you won't have a problem with stainless steel fasteners on your aluminum mast. You just got to keep an eye on it and stay on top of it.
The spreaders are the horizontal pieces that help spread the loads on the mast. It's important to check where they're attached to the mast, and then there's some preparation that has to be done in order for the mast to be reassembled.
So we've got the spreaders on here. These are the spreaders right here. And one of the things that we noticed on this mast is that, you know, a lot of these fittings and what have you, they're riveted to the mast. While that might not be the way you would like it, say if you're doing, you know, some serious blue water offshore work, you know, it is what it is. So we're going to leave that stuff be for now unless there's something damaged or it's loose.
A lot of times these trailerable sailboats, they're just not going to have the same sort of hardware that you find on a bigger, more capable boat. But nevertheless, you got to check all the rivets. If anything's loose, you got to pull that. Now's the time to replace any of the fasteners. Make sure all the hardware is connected properly. It's not uncommon to find damaged rivets or something like that. It happens all the time. Just be sure to replace them with the right kind of rivet for a saltwater environment.
There are little rubber boots that go on here and you tape them off and it holds it on here. This is designed to move like this. Instead of leaving them bare like this, it's probably worth getting the tiny boots.
The ends of the spreaders should be covered with what's called a spreader boot. Sometimes it's made of leather, but nowadays it's mostly a rubber boot that goes on there. It's a very specific sailing item. You can always tell when a mast has been rigged properly if it's got spreader boots on there and they've been taped using rigger's tape. Now, this is not Gorilla Tape. This is not masking tape or duct tape. This is a special tape that adheres to itself, will hold up in the UV, and its real purpose is it's designed to prevent chafing so that when the sails are pulled around the sides of the mast, well, they don't snag on the spreaders. If you're thinking about restoring a classic sailboat or an old trawler, check out all of the videos on my YouTube channel. Consider joining the workers or taking advantage of my boat restoration consulting services. I offer personal coaching for your boat restoration project. Be sure to like and subscribe. This channel would not be possible without your support. Thank you. One of the things I wanted to do on this sailboat was upgrade the head sail rigging to some sort of a roller furling. I just think it makes managing the sails so much easier. It's much more convenient. A furling unit is this foil and a drum that goes on the front of the boat around the forestay. It allows you to take the head sail and kind of wrap it up on itself or let it out as much as you would like.
You got a mainsail and you got a head sail. Now, if the boat is rigged as a masthead sloop, what that means is that the head sail goes all the way to the mast head, the tip of the mast up here. See? So this is your main halyard right here. We raise the mainsail all the way to the top. We use this line here. But if you had a masthead sloop, you would have you would run the head sail all the way to the top up here. This boat is not masthead sloop. This boat is what's called a fractional rig. A fractional rig is where the head sail only comes up to a fraction of what the full potential of the mast is, right? And the fraction is usually 7/8 or something like that. Might be 3/4 of the length of the mast, right? So here you can see this is where the shroud is here. And this is what your head sail would normally hanks onto here, right? We're not going to be doing that. We're going to be putting up a roller furler. So we're going to do the same thing. It'll go over this shroud here. This is where it's at. It's probably about 7/8 of the length of this mast here. This is a fractional rig on the Skipper 20. So this is going to be a homemade roller furling contraption here. There are plans for these online, how to make them out of pieces of household PVC, kind of a do-it-yourself method. They work on a small boat like this, but you know, look, we put so much time into this boat. Why not just put in this CDI roller furling that I have? It's an older model, but I think it'll work great. And we can rig it proper, you know? So we're probably gonna get rid of this.
The brand I'm using is a company called CDI. They make smaller furlers for smaller sailboats, especially Trailerable ones. It's referred to as a flexible furling unit. I have an older one that I bought off of Facebook or Craigslist, paid $100 for it. It's an older version of the ones that are offered today, but I think it'll come in handy. The instructions for installing one of these and all the details is online. You can read all about it. Basically, you cut the plastic foil down to a certain length and it slides over the forestay. Now, you do have to have your head sail set up to be put on a furling unit, but I've already made the decision that I'm going to get new sails anyway, so all this just makes sense. You may also have to add some extra blocks or pulleys, fair leads on the deck to be able to route the lines that go to the furling unit and help you control the head sail. We'll cover all that in a separate episode. This can be a difficult one. You've got to decide whether or not you need new sails and new sheets. On this boat, the head sail had already been modified to use the do-it-yourself furler, so it couldn't even be used as a hank-on sail. And the mainsail itself was well past its years of service. The material was pretty much becoming threadbare. It makes sense to get all new sails, something really sexy. It's going to make this boat pop. I'm thinking about going with my classic all-black sails. The sheets for this boat, that's the lines that are used to control the sails, those are in pretty good shape, a lot of different sizes. There's really nothing wrong with them, except for the fact that I've made the decision I want to try and run all of the running rigging back to the cockpit so that I can control everything without having to go up on the foredeck of the boat. What this means is that I need all new sheets in order to be able to run the lines further back in the boat. And since I have new roller furling, well, that's a whole nother setup there and different lines and different sizes. Having lines run back to the cockpit so that a solo sailor can sail the boat very easily, this is something that I always like to do on my small sailboats. It requires a little bit of investment, time and money and planning, but it's well worth it. I hope to cover the details on all this in a separate episode.
We got a package. If we're lucky, inside here are the new sheets and halyards for the Skipper 20 sailboat. So let's see what we got here. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Check this out here. So what we've got is the black one is going to be the main halyard. And the white with the speckles is going to be probably the jib sheet. The blue is going to be the topping lift. And this red, small as it might be, is actually for the roller furler. That's surprisingly small. But that's the size line that they said to put in there. So we'll see how that works out. And that's it. We'll use the rest of the lines that are outside there. It should work out pretty good.
In the next episode, I'm going to talk about some of the things that I like to do to set up my sailboats, especially the small sailboats, certain things I like to do to kind of configure the boat for ease of sailing, trailering. I'm going to talk about all the little things that I like to do to kind of make my boats just a little bit better. If you have a small sailboat that you're restoring, you're going to want to check this out. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you next time. Stay motivated.